Carly Zimmerman.
Kateri Schmidt.
Maggie Schmidt.
Before the Wall Fell.
Pope John Paul II's journey to Poland.
In June of 1979, Pope John Paul II visited the Soviet-controlled state of Poland. This journey was the turning point that revitalized Polish resistance to communism, making Poland the first country to break Soviet grasp. Poland's success encouraged social revolution in surrounding countries, turning the tide against the USSR and ending the Soviet reign in Eastern Europe.
Beginning in 1947, the Soviet Union was engaged in the Cold War with the United States, which weakened the USSR politically and economically. This was just one of the many factors that had begun to erode the Soviet Union since its emergence as a world leader in the aftermath of World War II.
The signing of the Warsaw Pact in 1955 created an alliance between the Soviet Union and the countries of Eastern Europe. In reality, however, this treaty placed these countries under the political and military control of the Soviet Union.
Of the satellite states, Poland was the largest and most strategically positioned. But Poland had a centuries-old Roman Catholic heritage, which the communist regime sought to destroy. The new Polish government oppressed the church and did not allow for public demonstrations of the Catholic faith.
Take that down, you know the law.
What's the use? This police state censors everything, our culture, our beliefs.
There are opportunities to prosper in this new state. Opportunities for greater pay, a respectable position in society. We are giving you a country freed from this religious crutch.
You speak of 30 years of the Polish state, but the Catholic Church has been here hundreds. Before this regime, this country was decimated by war, but it was the church that remained strong. Now this government owns everything. Our property, our businesses, us. We have no future. My children will never know what it is to make their own choices. They will always belong to the government, like I do.
Amidst the fear and hopelessness, the Bishop of Krakow, Karol Wojtyła, was a symbol of hope and resistance. Wojtyła attacked the very principles on which Marxism was founded. He said that by limiting religious freedom, Marxism contradicted the basic rights and identity of man. In October of 1978, Wojtyła traveled to Rome for the election of a new pope.
Habemus Papam.
Cardinal Felici has just announced the name of a Polish cardinal. Our thoughts go out to the extraordinary reaction there must be in Poland itself.
Wojtyła! Karol Wojtyła! Our Archbishop! He's the Pope!
Mary and Jesus, this is the end. Just what we need. A worldwide symbol of Polish Catholicism. The Pope from behind the Iron Curtain. The Church is challenging our authority as it is.
Give it, sir!
I'm the first secretary of Poland. You better have a damn good reason for bursting into my office.
Sir, it's the Pope. He's planning to return home to Poland this spring. Moscow has already contacted us. General Secretary Brezhnev is on the line.
Very well. The first secretary of the Polish state, Edward Gierek.
Take my advice. Do not give the new Pope any reception. It will only cause trouble.
How can I not receive a Polish Pope when over 90% of my countrymen are Catholic? You have seen how he resonates with the people.
Exactly. Our situation is dire as it is. Political tension with the West, this arms race, is hurting our economy. The faith of the Polish people, combined with John Paul's status as a world leader, could turn the tide against us.
It is out of my power to prevent it, but I assure you it will be controlled.
Do what you wish, but be sure you won't regret it later.
You there! We need to pour all available resources into monitoring this visit. Alert 60,000 of your officers in Krakow alone. Place undercover officers and recording devices wherever the Pope travels.
On June 2nd, 1979, John Paul's plane landed in Warsaw. Later that day, over 1 million Poles witnessed his first address in Victory Square.
I've never seen such big crowds.
Even during the communist propaganda rallies, where we're forced to show up.
The Pope!
He's speaking.
Any man who chooses his ideology honestly and through his own conviction deserves respect. The future of Poland will depend on how many people are mature enough to be nonconformists. Be not afraid. Let the Holy Spirit descend and renew the face of this land.
We began to clap, applauding our Pope. It lasted 14 minutes. In that 14 minutes, a fear that had chained us was lifted.
I never knew there were so many of us who wanted change, who wanted God. But here were millions of us gathered,
United,
chanting,
"We want God! We want God!" The Pope, the Church, saw us as individuals, not as a collective mass, not as tools, not as a means to an end.
When the Pope called upon the Holy Spirit, the message was clear to all of us. He hoped this day would be a turning point for our country, a peaceful one in which the communist government would fall. It was a call to no longer live in fear.
The government acted like the Pope's visit never even happened. My family watched on television, and they never even saw the Pope. Only old women and nuns.
The government may try to hide the truth, but we know. For a third of our countrymen saw the Pope live, and each of us was inspired to reclaim our lost freedoms. You can feel the change in the air. We look to the Pope now, not the government.
The Pope's visit was a turning point for the social climate in Poland. Once hopeless citizens were reinvigorated.
Beginning in the mid-70s, the Soviet Union experienced economic stagnation. Poland's own economic problems increased in 1980. This, combined with the spirit of independence engendered by John Paul's visit, drove the Polish people to action. In August of that year, Union leader Lech Walesa scaled the wall of the Lenin shipyard in Gdansk to demand workers' rights, capitalizing on the momentum created by the Pope's visit.
My fellow workers, the regime does not care about the rights of man. In their eyes, we exist only to serve the state. We do not want much. We just want to be free, to be ourselves. The regime, they do not represent us. They say this Communist Party is for the people, but the people, we are for the Pope.
Walesa was able to encourage others to strike in their own workplaces, bankrupting many government-owned businesses. The movement became known as Solidarity.
Strikes are spreading throughout Poland. Solidarity now has over 10 million members. Yes, strikes like this happened back in 1970. They were scattered, unorganized, and they failed. But this is different. You were all there for the Pope's visit last year. It gave us a sense of solidarity. He showed us that our common faith, our Polish Catholic heritage bind us together. And our Pope in Rome, he will represent us to the world. Is this not the change he wanted?
Due to pressure from Moscow, Poland's new First Secretary, Wojciech Jaruzelski, imposed martial law, outlawing Solidarity and arresting its leaders. But Poland did not have the money or military support to sustain martial law, and 2 years later, the military imposition was lifted. Solidarity was officially recognized as the first free workers' union behind the Iron Curtain.
2 years later, in 1985, Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev instituted glasnost and perestroika, loosening government control of free expression and privatizing some businesses, measures intended to quiet the social unrest. Having been sustained underground by the Catholic Church for years, Solidarity took this opportunity to strike back harder than ever.
Free! Poland is free! Solidarity has swept the votes! June 4th, 1989, just 10 years after our Pope's visit, and we are the first country to break Soviet grasp. Already we are seeing other countries taking hope from our example. Hungary, Czechoslovakia, East Germany. We are giving them strength to carry on their own revolutions.
1 month after Poland's freedom, the Berlin Wall fell, marking the end of Soviet dominance in Eastern Europe.
In 2009, the mayor of Warsaw dedicated a 30-foot cross to the father of Polish freedom, saying, "We Poles know that the demolition of communism did not begin in 1989, but 10 years earlier, here on this square, with the words of John Paul II.
Mikhail Gorbachev himself stated that the fall of the Berlin Wall could not have happened without this Pope.
In his memoir, Lech Walesa wrote, "Defeating communism and ending the Cold War was a success with many fathers. All of them deserve credit. But it is impossible not to bow before the paramount champion of the cause for freedom, Pope John Paul. The miracle the Pope wrought
was a turning point that changed the face of the world.